Good evening. We are so glad to have you back with us. We have an exciting program for you this evening. For all of you out there, I tell you every show, be sure to have something to write with and take down a lot of information because we have so much information for you. I'm going to start off with my first guest, and my first guest is Laura Debenham, Professor Laura Debenham, and we're going to get into her background and everything else in just a few minutes. But I'd like to tell you that she's a licensed master's social worker, and we have to find out exactly what that is, what it entails, how she got to where she is today. But the fact that she's a social worker, and we need social workers in our community. So first thing I want to do is welcome her to the show. So Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom.
We are so glad to have you with us this evening. And I say that because, I followed some of the things that you've done, and I'm so impressed with that, which is why I wanted to make sure everybody know that you are now Professor Laura Debenham. And you can tell us why and how you got that title, but we want to go back and find out to everybody that's watching who you are. I know who you are, but many of them don't know. So Laura, tell us about you. Where did you come from? How did you get here? And what are you doing?
Well, I started out at a community college.
Okay.
And got married at fairly young. I was 19 when I got married. And my husband and I took off and went to Texas A&M University, where I discovered this wonderful thing called sociology. I took my first sociology class, and I fell in love with the study of groups of people. And I had taken several psychology courses, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I was raised in a community where if you were female, all you could do was teach school or be a nurse. And I knew I didn't want to do either of those things. And anyway, I ended up discovering social work because I worked for a rehab center, and I did secretarial work. And they eventually had me do intake counseling. And I would look at I would do secretarial work and do all of the notes for the psychologists and social workers. And I saw the difference in their paycheck and mine. And you know what the difference was?
What?
A bunch of letters after their name.
Okay.
Yeah, and higher education. And so it was that point I took the college credits that I had, and I was in Illinois at the time, transferred them to Eastern Illinois University, and was able to finally get my bachelor degree. And I used that as a springboard to go on to graduate school. I married a guy with wanderlust, so we've lived all over the country. And at that point, we were living in Montana, and I discovered this wonderful graduate program through Walla Walla University. Got my master's degree with a bunch of Crow natives. It was wonderful. I really got to know the tribal community as well through my higher education experience. And then we moved to Vegas. And I did some work in Vegas, in the inner city, facilitating a teen treatment program. And in my graduate program, I did my practicum in the Montana State Women's Prison. So that gave me some wonderful experiences.
Vast experience.
Yeah. Then we moved to Elko, where I discovered Great Basin College. But before I discovered Great Basin College, or maybe they discovered me, I don't know. I owned and operated a domestic violence educational agency, and it was called Think Before Acting. It's still there, and basically court-ordered, mostly court-ordered, some wife-ordered clients who came in to be educated how to really promote change within yourself if you have had some domestic violence issues in the past.
I like that term, Think Before Acting.
Yeah, it was a great agency. I really loved doing that. And, in the course of my work, I've worked with a lot of both victims and perpetrators of domestic violence. And guess which is easier to work with?
Which?
The perpetrators. Do you know why?
No, tell me why.
You can hold them accountable.
Okay.
Yeah. With victims, it's about validating their primary emotions. It's about helping them recognize that they can move on. There's a lot of growth that happens with victims, and don't get me wrong, I loved working with victims as well, but I found working with perpetrators, and it was surprising to me that being able to hold them accountable and help them see that that the change process was possible was, I don't know, empowering. But I've worked in a lot of different areas in social work. I also worked as a school social worker in Elko, and did a lot of my hours toward my licensed clinical social work credential. And then I was hired at GBC, Great Basin College, and it's just been kind of a wild ride. The reason I get to be called professor now is I finally got tenure. So.
Okay. Now you have to tell us, what is tenure? Now, for those people that are not in education, what is tenure?
Well, it just means you've earned this credential. You've kind of arrived. You have to go through a process, including just kind of proving yourself as someone who contributes not only to the college but also to the community,
Yes.
and makes a difference in the lives of your students. And it's kind of a long process. It's pretty hairy, but it's definitely worth it. And of course, to me, the most important thing about what I do is making a difference in the lives of my students.
And it gives you the title of professor. I know when I worked at the university level and the college level, I was associate professor. So you're associate professor, not tenure, and now you are a full professor. That is wonderful.
Well, you know what? My grandchildren still call me Grammy. I've tried to get them to call me Professor Grammy. It doesn't fly. One of them calls me Graham Cracker. So, whatever titles are worth, you know. But I love being a professor. I love working with students. It's incredibly rewarding, and it's just kind of a wild ride. It's definitely my dream job. I never even thought, when I was at Texas A&M University as a 19-year-old, I did not think that I could be a professor one day. You know,
and most people don't.
No.
You grow into this environment that you fall in love with, and you find you can help others in the same area, and that's what it's all about, helping others.
Right, and a lot of reading.
A lot of reading.
A lot of reading.
Yes.
I've always been a voracious reader, and one of the things that I love about my job is that it's kind of a requirement that you have to be, you know, you have to be up on the latest in social work. And so I do a lot of reading. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of audiobooks to keep me, you know, abreast of what's going on in the field.
Now, you're at Great Basin College, and tell us something about Great Basin College.
Well, it is considered the gold standard in the Silver State. That's kind of our motto.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's got, I believe it's an 800,000 square mile campus. We have satellite offices all over rural Nevada.
Okay.
And so one of the coolest things about the social work program at Great Basin College is that we're able to get students who are already doing something along the lines of social work. For example, I have 4 students right now that are working in 4 separate small towns in Nevada as secretaries or assistants for Child Protective Services.
Oh, okay.
And you know, they're full-time students who are also already making a difference in their communities. I have them in Ely, Winnemucca, here in Pahrump, and Elko.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of exciting. Great Basin College is kind of the best kept secret in rural Nevada, in my opinion.
I have found exactly the same thing, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to ask that question. For people that don't know about Great Basin College, it's a wonderful institution, and it's affordable.
It's very affordable.
Yes. So I'm going to recommend that. You can get a 4-year degree at Great Basin College and then move on to a university and go on to other things. And we'll be talking about more of that in the next session. But it's just the idea that when you get into the program that Laura is talking about, Professor Debenham is talking about, then you know you're in a program that's going to be beneficial not only to yourself, but to your entire community. And that's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know quite a bit about Great Basin College. The last time I saw you, Dr. Waters, you were giving the keynote address at our graduation.
Yes, I was asked to be the keynote speaker for the graduation, and I thoroughly appreciated that, thoroughly enjoyed talking to the graduates, and I'm hoping I'll see a lot of people that are watching this show today as future graduates, whether I'm the speaker or not, just the fact that you're graduating and moving on with your life. It is so important that you know exactly where to go and how to get there. And that's what Professor Debenham is here to tell us, to make sure that you know what's available, it's something that you might enjoy, and she can help you get there. That's what we're going to be talking about. We're glad to have you here this evening because this program is just so important. You are the social work instructor and coordinator at UNR and Great Basin College. And we're going to have to tell you some more about why UNR is involved in that. And she's going to be telling us more about that in the next session. So I'm going to ask you to come back and join us because it is so important that you get all of this information. Be sure to write down this information. You can always contact Professor Debenham. You can always contact her and ask questions. Look, I'm interested in this or that. You can look at her email address, send her an email, or call her on the phone and say, look, this is something I'm interested in. What do I need to do? How can I get there? And she will help you or give you some other information about how you can move on with your goals. And that's important. So be sure to write all that information down. Be sure to contact Laura and let her know, look, this is my interest as well. You've already heard her passion. And in the next session, you're going to hear a lot more because the programs are invaluable. So come back and join us. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. I still have my guest, Dr. Laura Debenham. She's a licensed master social worker, and she's also the instructor and coordinator for this program, and that's what we're going to be talking about. For anybody out there that may be interested in social work, this is the person you really need to contact because she can guide you all the way through. And I'm going to let her tell you more about that because she's the social work side. I'm the Air Force side or the other education side and administrator side. So when we talk to Professor Debenham, we're looking at social work and we're looking at the importance of this occupation, which is so important. So tell us more about your programs, how they can get involved in it, what they would need to do, and where they can go with it.
Well, the first thing you do is call up Great Basin College and sign up for classes.
Okay.
I'm teaching my next group of classes starting on August 28th. And Social Work 101 is a great course to take if you just want to better understand what social work is all about.
Okay.
And the program is basically designed to empower individuals who want to make a difference and make a living at the same time.
Okay.
And it's almost completely online. The classes that they take through Great Basin College can almost all of them be taken online. There's some classes that you can have the option of taking face-to-face if you prefer that, or through interactive video. All of the classes that I teach, I do Zoom meetings with my students at least once a month so that we have that face-to-face connection, because I figure if someone's majoring in social work, they have something social about them and they value a social connection.
That's great.
I always say that's like the key phrase in social work is social. We're usually very social people.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I hadn't thought about that. And for those people that don't know about online courses or things like that, that's the wave of the future, present and future. And one time when everything was in the classroom, some things now are not necessarily in the classroom, even though you're getting classroom instruction. And all these courses are transferable to other colleges and universities across the United States. So I'd say if you want to sign up, let's listen to Professor Debenham and get signed up, especially for that, what do you call it, Social Work 101?
Social Work 101.
Social Work 101, right at the beginning, and find out exactly what it's all about. So tell us more.
Well, my program, the first 3 years are completed through Great Basin College, and then the last year is completed through University of Nevada, Reno.
Okay.
And I do have some students that go on to different colleges, but the program is set up. It was actually, Great Basin College was approached by University of Nevada, Reno about 15 years ago and
Okay.
invited to participate in this program because there was such a need for social workers in rural Nevada. And so they thought the best way to do that would be to get students from rural Nevada into the program and make it doable for them,
Okay.
make it accessible for them. And so UNR approached GBC and created this 3+1 program. So my students take courses from me the first 3 years, but most of my students don't do it in 3 years. A lot of them will do it in 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
You know, because a lot of my students tend to be people who've already had some life experience, like I did as a student. You know, I had some kids, I put my husband through graduate school, and then I finally completed my degree taking a class or two at a time, you know, 18 years after I started it. So whenever I get students that come to me that say, oh, it's too late, I'm too old, I'm like, no. And then I tell them my story. You know, you're never too old.
Wow.
And you're going to be older anyway.
That's
so why
true.
not, why not be older with this degree? And I get a lot of students that are, you know, parents or they already have some kind of a career going on. One of my students right now is a bartender, and she told me, you know, I've done bartending for 20 years, and I want to be able to listen to people's problems without serving them alcohol. I said, okay, good. Let's do this thing. So anyway, it definitely attracts people who've had some life experience or are in the midst of life experience. And one of the things I've noticed with my students is a lot of times they might start out taking 1 or 2 classes, but when they get back into the groove of academia and doing the work, they start to recognize, oh, okay, this is doable. This is something I can fit in with kids and a career and, you know, a job or whatever. And they're able, with the online program, you know, they can do their homework at 2 in the morning if that's what they need to do. And anyway, so a lot of my students end up, as they take the classes, they recognize, oh, well, maybe I can handle 3 classes. Maybe I can handle a full load, 4 or 5 classes a semester. And so by the time they are qualified to apply to the UNR program, they recognize, oh, I can do this. Now, once they get to UNR, they take the classes online, and then 1 weekend a month they fly or drive to UNR campus to use the medical school facilities on a weekend for the weekend course. So basically, this is allowing them, empowering them to understand what like group therapy is all about in an actual group therapy setting. They're able to meet some of their UNR instructors face to face. They are able to meet their cohort face to face, and most of my students really, really enjoy that part of the education process.
That's got to be important and enjoyable as well, because they're actually learning. It's like hands-on.
Right, and it also gives them kind of the completion of all the things that they've learned online. Now they get to practice face-to-face in a face-to-face setting.
Builds that confidence.
Right, and the other thing that University of Nevada, Reno does is it goes through in the rural communities, and it sets my students up with a practicum or internship in their own community.
Okay.
And one of the things that I encourage my students to do is try to get a job in something that they already want to work in. Like a lot of my students really want to do school social work.
Okay.
And so they might be able to get a job in that, and then it can roll over and become their internship. So that way they're getting paid for their internship, which I think makes sense.
Getting paid for something you enjoy doing.
Exactly. And for making a difference in the lives of people. Another thing about my students, a lot of them come from a background of trauma. I've noticed that. A lot of us that go into mental health field have trauma in our background somewhere. I mean, most people have trauma in our background.
Wow, okay.
But I've noticed whenever I meet someone that's like, oh, I can't do this, I've been through so many hard things in my life, I'm like, okay, you're going to make a great social worker. Because I can't teach empathy in a classroom, but that's something that you learn from life experience.
Now we talk about the 3+1. and you've indicated what that means. But tell our audience exactly what 3+1 is.
Well, 3 years, the first 3 years of study is done through Great Basin College,
Okay.
and then the last year is done through UNR.
And because UNR is a university, what kind of degree do you get from this?
You get a bachelor's in social work.
A bachelor's in social work. And
Absolutely.
Then you can also move on to become a master's.
Exactly. And I encourage every single one of my students to do that. UNR has an accelerated program that's completely online for master's degree.
Oh.
And it only takes 14 months. This is what I tell my students. You got to hear this story.
Okay.
So my husband's a marathon runner, okay?
Wow.
And he qualified to do the Boston Marathon a few years ago. And so we got on a plane and we went to Boston. And one of the things that I noticed about all of these marathon runners is that the Boston Marathon was what they called their victory lap. Okay? Do you know why? Because it took so much to qualify that once they run the marathon, it's no big deal. And so I tell my students, once you have built up the momentum getting your bachelor's in social work, you might as well do that victory lap and get your master's degree.
Wonderful.
And it not only opens a lot of doors for you professionally, it allows you to influence people in a deeper way. So, and it also allows you to make a better income. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I encourage every single one of my students to go on and get their master's degree. And it's really interesting. This is my 7th year working for Great Basin College, and so I've got to see students finish their master's degree. And the difference between when they start the program and when they are graduating with a master's degree is amazing. It's so amazing.
Now, I have to ask this question because I know somebody out there is thinking it. In so many colleges and universities, people graduate and they have a bachelor's degree and they can't find a job. In social work, what is the percentage of people that graduate with a degree in social work that are employed or employable?
I don't know off the top of my head what the exact percentages was. And I'm telling you what, I got through my statistics class by reading. I'm not the best math person in the world. However, I can tell you that I've had students who have finished their bachelor's degree, and through their practicum or internship, they have been offered to stay on in a better pay position. And I've even had students who have been, by the agency they're working for, the agency has volunteered to pay for their master's degree.
And I asked that question. I don't usually ask gotcha questions. That is something we hadn't talked about. And I wanted to ask that question because, you know, even as a principal in a school, I'm looking for the social workers to help my students. And I have never seen a place where we had enough social workers. So I'm encouraging people, look, we need you. If that's an interest of yours, you need to contact Professor Debenham and say, look, I'm interested in getting into a field where I believe, this is just Tom Waters saying it, I believe is 100% employable. It's not like you get a degree in social work and can't find a job. You're going to be sought after. And this is very important.
Very, very, very true. And it's not for everyone. You know, you have to have a certain belief that people are capable of change. Mm-hmm. And if you don't believe it, by the end of Social Work 101, you probably will. And so it's a degree that I have seen people make really good livings with a social work degree. I've also seen people struggle and not be able to find their footing. But if you're good at it, you can make a good living with a social work degree. This is
great, and I want you to go ahead and be sure to contact Professor Debenham if you're interested at all. This has just been a wonderful occasion. I'm so glad to have her here this evening. Now, be prepared for our next session. Welcome back. I am so glad to have you back with us as we continue this wonderful informational show this evening. And I have some wonderful people. We're going to be talking about transportation during these next two segments. And I have John Koenig. He's the chairman of the board of directors and the president of Pahrump Valley Public Transportation. And also, I have Eric Whalen. He's the executive director. So we have two members here that can answer all the questions that I'm going to be asking, and hopefully you're going to be thinking. But again, as I always say, I want you to write this down because there's a lot of information they're going to be providing. They're going to be giving you phone numbers and let you know exactly what's going on if you're interested in transportation within Nye County. Even though we talk about Pahrump, they're expanding out to other areas. And hopefully everybody will take advantage of this because we're talking about an area now, not just Pahrump. We're talking about an area where Pahrump Transportation is helping everybody. And that's what we want to talk about. But I want to welcome them to the show. First, John, welcome.
Thank you,
Glad
Tom.
to have you. Eric,
Thank you.
welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here.
And with that, we're going to be talking about transportation. And we're talking about Pahrump Valley Public Transportation, the entire valley. And the valley includes other areas that you're going to be telling us about. But before we get into any of that, sometime back, I know we didn't have any transportation in Pahrump at all. So I'm going to go to John Koenig and ask him, give us a little background as to how we got transportation here.
Transportation really started with the senior center. That's where it originated. And my problem in Pahrump especially was it's 100 degrees out, 100 degrees out, and I see this old lady walking down the street carrying a bag from Walmart because her neighbor didn't have a car or couldn't get free that day. Her kids couldn't help her. She doesn't have a car. And it used to really, really, really bother me. I mean, I had a car, but a lot of people in Pahrump did not have a car and still don't have a car and don't have the means or anything to get a car. They depend on their neighbors. They depend on their children to get back and forth to doctors, dentists, Walmart, Albertsons. And it was it was a great idea to do a low cost. You call us, we'll come and get you. We'll take you where you want to go. When you're ready to come back, you call us, we'll come and get you, we'll take you back home. If you have a wheelchair, we can handle it. We'll do whatever we need to do to help you get your job done, especially in the summer when it's 120 degrees out. So, and this is something that I pushed before I was on the county commissioners, while I was on the county commissioners, and now I'm really into it. So this is where we are today, Tom. This is how I got started, and it's been, I don't forget, when did it really start with the senior center?
In February of 2018 is when we did the ribbon cutting for Pahrump Valley Public Transportation.
So it's been,
So we're going on 5.5 years now.
right. So,
So now,
And every year we've grown and grown. We started out with about 8,000 rides for the year. Now we're looking at about 24,000 riders
oh,
for
great.
every year.
Okay.
We started out with an outdated fleet of, I think, 5 vehicles. All of these vehicles were like 2007, 2005 vehicle. Now we have almost a whole new fleet consisting of Ford Transit vans. You've probably seen them around town. We have 6 of those. We have 3 Dodge Grand Caravans. We have a Ford E350 cutaway bus. So we've come a long way in those 5 years.
right.
So when we say we've come a long way in 5 years, so 6 years ago we had no transportation, or we were just infants as far as transportation goes, and we were struggling.
Right.
Yes.
But as
And
John stated, we saw so many people walking in the heat, and we had to do something. And even now, if they need transportation, what's the cost? You said low cost.
It's $3 one way, and we need, what, 3 days notice?
3 to 4 days notice
3 to 4
minimum.
days notice, and if you want to go to Walmart, say, we'll come to your house, we'll pick you up at your home. It's $3 to go to Walmart. When you're ready to go home, $3 to go home. I mean, I'm not sure I can for $6 with the price of gas, I'm not sure I can do that in my vehicle anyway, so it's something to think about. But again, there's an awful lot of people, well, you can tell 20 some odd trips, 20 some odd thousand trips. There's a lot of people that need what we're doing.
Now, you did say they have to call in advance. It's not like you say, hey, I want to go to Walmart today.
It's not a taxi service.
Yeah.
So how far in advance do they need?
We would recommend a minimum of 3 days. We are really busy, and we wish we could accommodate faster, but we have budget constraints and things of that nature that we can only do so much with what we have. So we do the best that we can. Hopefully we can improve that number to where we can have a limited number of same-day service and also next-day service. But that's something, you know, we're looking forward to in the future.
It's something we talk about amongst ourselves and trying to figure out how to do it. We'd need more vehicles, probably more drivers, which is more money, and we are severely cash limited, so.
Yeah, like most nonprofits, especially one that's as young in development as we are,
Right.
you know, things get tight. So if you want to make a generous donation, you can always head down to our office. Like I said, we are a nonprofit. Everything that we do is just for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is for public transportation. Safe, reliable, affordable transportation.
Right.
I'm going to add something else, and it's something that Eric has just stated. The fare is $3. We'll use Walmart as an example. $3 to go to Walmart, $3 to come back. Now, if you'd like to give more to help them, where the donations come in, they would gladly accept that. Like you said, you know, they're not in it to make money, but they're in it to make service for all of you.
Right.
And that's so important, and we want to continue doing that. But we don't have an exhaustible amount of funds to make all this happen. And that's why it's slowly growing. Some people have asked, and we'll probably get into this later on, why don't we have bus stops in Pahrump? We're not there yet, but we're growing. So one day, that's something that will happen. If you look back 5 years ago, we didn't have buses. Look at where we are today. So we are growing, and things are getting better. And it's getting better because of the support we're getting from all of you.
Right. Typically, when you start stuff like this, it takes a very long time to get it going. Again, because we're constrained by money. I mean, our drivers make a minimal wage. Eric gets a minimal wage. I get nothing, obviously. And we just got in our insurance bill. Our new insurance bill went from $111,000 a year for vehicles to almost $190,000 a year for vehicles. So that's what we're saying when we're cash constrained.
Yeah.
I mean, we got that bill last week it was, I think.
Yeah.
And it was like culture shock. It was horrible. So.
Yeah, and that's only one of about 5 or 6 insurances we need to carry. I think very few people out in the general public have any idea, or I guess some of them do, if they were business owners,
Yeah.
as to what really goes on behind the scenes. I mean, a lot of people think that we just answer the phone and put you in a book and go pick you up. But there are so many things behind the scenes that go on, such as compliance issues with FTA. We have a fully certified staff on, you know, working for us in our employ, with a lot of detailed training and drug and alcohol program. Everybody is subject to random drug testing. It's a very strictly run organization.
Right. But again, we're constantly talking about new things to try, new ways to do things, ways to cut the budget. How do we get from where we are to where we want to be? And it's a typical, you set a goal, you work towards the goal, and once you get almost to that goal, you set another goal.
Yeah.
So we're keeping going. Hopefully we can get to the point where within one day you can call. I'm not sure if we'll ever get to the you can call and we'll come and get you right away, but that's more of a taxi service, and we're not a taxi service. So. We are a low-cost method to get from one place to another for people who don't have any other means.
Now, if somebody is interested in using the transportation, okay, what number do they call and to get themselves scheduled? And you said at least 3 days in advance.
Yes.
Okay.
And that number would be 775-751-6860. And prompt 1.
Oh,
That'll get you to our dispatch and our scheduler. You'll be speaking to Wade. There's some more of our information and our hours. We work from 6 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Our last pickup is at 5:30. Saturdays we run from 8 a.m. until 3:30 is our last pickup.
and Sunday?
Sunday we are
we're
currently, we're closed on Sunday.
Closed on Sunday.
Right.
Okay. We've gone from no transportation 5 years ago to 6 days a week.
Yes.
Oh, that's growing fast. And with the cost, we've already stated minimal, $3 one way. Couldn't ask for better. And you don't have to walk out in that hot sun
Right.
if you're going to one of our stores.
And we have our regulars that call every week.
Yeah, we have a lot of people that call in for employment purposes, which is great to see. Knowing that we can provide that benefit for them so they can get to their job. And then one of the interesting things is when we pick them up, we take them to their jobs, and 3 months down the road, they say, we don't need you anymore because they got their own car. They got their own house, they did this. And that's a success story that we want to see.
We have some,
Outstanding. Now, we want you to come back because we have a lot more for you in the next session. So we want you to be sure to come back. Be sure to write this information down because they've got a lot more information for you. Come back and join us. Welcome back to our final session. I still have John Koenig and Eric Whalen from PVPT, that's Pahrump Valley Public Transportation, and they have a lot more information. We have success stories. We have just a vast amount of information. So I want to make sure that you're writing this down. Please be sure to use this and tell your friends about it because we still have people in our community that don't know we have public transportation. And then when you tell them they have it, and then you tell them it's only $3 each way, they're really surprised. So be sure to let them know, and especially when you see somebody walking in the hot sun. So I'm going to turn it back to these two gentlemen, and either one can tell us about success stories. We also want to talk about veteran transportation. They're going to go into that. And then, again, we want to emphasize and re-emphasize that the transportation is there for you, for all of you. And we're also looking at going into other communities, and they'll expand on that as well.
right.
Success stories, what do you
Eric,
have?
Go ahead.
Okay. One of our first passengers that we had when we first started public transportation 5 years ago, a young lady, we would pick her up and take her to the Nye Communities Coalition, where she was filling out resumes. She was finishing her diploma, I believe,
Okay.
getting her GED, and we would take her there and back for the kind of training. A short while later, we were giving her transportation, providing her transportation to Great Basin College, where she started going to college. A short while later, we were taking her to Evergreen Rehab Center out there on North Blag,
Okay.
and where she was working. And then a short while after that, she went back to Great Basin College and got more training and started working at Desert View Hospital. I mean, just success after success after
Wow,
success, and to see the growth of this one person that we touched their life. And, you know, that's amazing. It's a great feeling for us to be able to do that for people.
It's one of the things that keeps you wanting to keep this going and make it better and better and better. You can see the fact that you're helping people. It's really a good feeling.
Yeah. And then we also do our medical runs. We have, I think, 12 people that we take, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for dialysis treatments, much needed medical appointments. And just recently, we've started going to Beatty.
Okay.
So we have started a Beatty route every Thursday. For those interested, please call ahead at least 1 week in advance. That way we can get you in the book and get you on that schedule. But the Beatty route is doing quite well. We also offer transportation for Amargosa for those who are interested. That would be every Tuesday. And coming soon, with the school year just getting ready to start, we'll be doing the after-school program for students that need ride home for extracurricular activities such as sports or academic clubs. We'll be able to give you safe transportation right from Rosemary Clark Middle School or Pahrump Valley High School straight home.
Right, I've been working on that for what, 2 years now? It's been one of my dreams because kids around here, they get out of school, mom and dad work, and what do? They get in trouble.
Yes.
So now they have a way to get to do healthy, good things that are sponsored by the school. We'll get them there, we'll take them home. We don't take them to Walmart, we take them home. So hopefully this will help.
I like the fact that you mentioned Beatty and Amargosa, and you said that the Beatty run is picking up and everything is going good there.
Yes, it's doing quite well. I'm really pleased with the results. I anticipate more ridership in the future, as it is, you know, a fairly new program. But I do see it growing and growing.
Okay. And Amargosa, it's a new program, so for all of those that live in Amargosa, and you're saying, gee, I didn't know about this transportation.
Now you
So
know.
now you know.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here to let you know that we're starting something new, and if they need to expand into other areas, that's something that can happen in the future.
Right.
But right now, we're looking at growing. In 5 years, I think we've made massive strides.
Yes, we have.
Yes, we have.
Oh, this is just fantastic. But that's not the only thing that they do. What else do you do for veterans?
Let's talk about VetTrans.
Yes, let's talk about VetTrans.
VetTrans is a free, that's F-R-E-E, free transportation for any vet that has to go for any medical needs. If he needs to go get prescriptions, go to the doctor, go to the Veterans Hospital here or in Vegas, it's free.
Yeah, and that obviously Monday through Friday during our normal business hours, veterans ride for free. And Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we offer Las Vegas transportation for the veterans. And that includes 6900 North Pecos, way out there in the middle of nowhere. Why they decided to build that hospital out there instead of in the heart of Las Vegas, I don't know. But they must have got a good deal on the land.
Yeah.
Well, that means you haven't been out there lately. It's not out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, yeah.
People are building around it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes.
So veterans, there you go. If you
Yeah.
need help, we're there for you.
Now, veterans, I want to say this, and they haven't said it, but at the same time, even though it's free for veterans, they could still use donations.
We
And
can always use
donations
Yes.
are always,
Yes.
always there. So I just wanted to go ahead and emphasize that. But veterans, it is free. It is no cost to you at all. That's absorbed by other ways of raising funds.
Yes.
But we do that strictly for the veteran community.
Okay.
So tell us more about where we're going, where we are. We've given you phone numbers on how you can call in and make sure that you get a ride to wherever you want to go.
Right, and you know, Tom, you brought up before the questions that some people ask, why don't we have bus stops in town?
Yes.
So we've kicked that around, but say I have put a bus stop out at half a mile from your house. How are you going to get from your house to the bus stop? Do you have to call us to come and give you a ride to the bus stop? It just, you know, Pahrump and Nye County in general is so big, it's just almost impossible to do things like that. If I had a bus stop out in front of my house, it'd be great, but it's never going to be there. It would be down the street, and then it's 120 out, and I have to walk down the street. I haven't gained much because I can pick you up at your house. All our vans are fully equipped to deal with wheelchairs and anything else that we need to deal with. So if we cut the time down, our response time down from 3 days to 1 day, I think we'd almost be there because you'd be able to call the day ahead and say, I need to go to Walmart tomorrow, can you pick me up at 9 o'clock? And we can do that. We hope we'll get there. So I think that solves the problem, because I don't see bus stops happening in Pahrump.
Yeah, that's going to be quite a ways off in the future. Just the infrastructure alone required. The building of the actual bus stop, the road paving for the turnout for the bus stop, the shade and the electricity run to the bus stop. You know, you think it's just a little stand. Well, there's a lot more that goes into it than that. I think each bus stop averages $15,000 to $20,000. And that's just for the bus stop itself, not for the permits and everything else and the electrical and everything else that needs to be run to it.
Now, we certainly couldn't afford that.
Yeah. And
So the town or the county would have to do that, and that means you'd have to pay for it, Mr. Taxpayer.
yeah. On average, our organization cost about $1,700 per day to run operations to make sure that we can try to pick you up. So that's a lot when you take that times 30 days in a month or 28 days.
Right.
So donations are definitely appreciated and welcome. You will be definitely donating to a worthy cause because, like I said earlier in the segment, our primary goal is just providing low-cost, affordable, reliable, safe transportation for the community.
I have to mention, we should mention that we are sponsored by Nevada Department of Transportation. Nye County gives us a grant,
Yes.
and the veterans
Indeed,
also
yeah.
give us.
Nevada Division of Veteran Services. We have 3 grants currently operating. I'd like to give a big thank you to all the transit team at NDOT. We just received our award letter for the purchase of our facility at 601 East Street. We also received our award letter for our operations for our 5311 grant. That will secure public transportation as long as we can bear it until we fall down and collapse.
Yes.
Let me throw out one other thing too. We have a lot of people that are watching the show tonight and they probably have some great ideas on how to improve things and make things better. We have what we call a transportation committee. We meet once a month and we meet at the transportation office. If you'd like to be part of that committee, just come to one of the meetings. We meet once a month. Does anybody remember what day we meet?
Third Thursday of the month?
Third Thursday of the month at 10
Or is
a.m.
it second? Second or third? You can just call our office.
Yeah, we can tell you.
Yeah.
If you call the office, they will tell you when the committee is meeting. Come to the meeting and provide any information. This is where you can come in and say, look, I have ideas about this, this, and this, and the committee is listening, and that's the way we can go ahead and make it happen.
Next meeting would be August 17th at 10 o'clock at Pahrump Valley Public Transportation Office, right next to the library.
Yeah.
And that is the third Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah,
Third
and
Thursday.
that address is 601 East Street. And like you said, right next to the public library. We are open to the public. Come in, voice your opinions, give us ideas. Beat us up a little bit, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Even negative feedback is great for us, so we know what we can give you and provide better
We
service
want to
for
get
you.
better.
And without that input, you know, we don't really know.
Right.
So we're inviting you to be a part of everything that we're doing with public transportation. We can make it better. It can be better. But we need your input. We need your support. So when you call and schedule yourself for transportation, remember, we're keeping the price down, and you can do that, but at the same time, they're always open for donations. They're always looking for funds to make it easier on our taxpayers. Don't forget VetTrans for veterans. We have the information there for you. Veterans, we're here for you. And we want to thank John and Eric for being here this evening, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you again at the next show.
Thank you.